Hi folks, Damien Orangi here. I'm an engineering technologist with Dell Technologies, and in our first video with PowerScale and ClearML, we covered the setup process such as access zones, our networking configuration, our DNS configuration, so we could configure Smart Connect successfully for our MLOps access zone. So I'll leave the link in the description below for the first video, so you can check that out for the technical details of that. So in this video, we're actually going to set up everything we need essentially to get the ClearML server deployed and up and running. So we're going to have to set up our CSI integration and our persistent volume claims, and set up our storage classes to facilitate that as well, which will allow us to install ClearML using the Helm chart. So with no further ado, let's get that started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our CSM user and group, right? And certainly this is much easier to do through the CLI, and we can verify it through the GUI afterwards. This user is going to be using our opaque secret, which will be named Isilon-creds, that we will be setting up later. A lot of demonstrations that you'll see tend to use root usernames and passwords. We want to be a little bit more specific in our environment here and kind of better align it with how you would do this in a production environment. So this way we'll actually just set up the CSM admin user and appropriate group. As you can see here, we've done that through the CLI. So I'm just quickly going to recap here. So we've set up our RKE2 MLOps folder. We set that up in the last video actually. So just want to make sure that everything is there and present. And if we jump over to NFS, we just want to make sure that our global settings are configured the way we need them. Essentially, we want to ensure that we've got NFS version 4 up and running here, which we do. Okay, so we're actually ready to go now with the Rancher setup and actually step through the CSI installation and set up our storage classes to enable the deployment of ClearML. So you can see here I've got a 4-node cluster sitting on the same network, which is the 192.168.30.0 network that we've actually configured for our ML operations lab. So the first thing that we're going to do here is actually create a new project and create some namespaces in that project, right? So no surprise, let's call it MLOps here. And we can save that out. So we can see we've got a blank project here called MLOps. So let's create a namespace in there. The first thing we're going to want to do is create an Isilon namespace, and this is where we will be deploying the CSI pods into. Okay, so we can see we've got our Isilon namespace there created. So we will click on secrets under storage and click create, and we're going to create 2 opaque secrets here. So the first one's going to be called Isilon-creds, and within the data field here, we'll just put in the key as config, and we can paste in the values here that we want. Okay, so this is going to be our username and password, and this is our secret here, right, for the CSI installation. So once that's done, we're going to create a second secret here as well. And in the data field here, the key is cert-0, and it's essentially a empty string. Okay, so that's our secrets actually set up here. So that's going to allow us to actually go to the charts. And actually search for the PowerScale CSI Helm chart here. So just type that in. You can say Dell CSI PowerScale. We have our secrets set up, which is good. So we've met the prereqs here. So let's go ahead and click on the install button. Now there is a little bit of customization. There's 2 things that we want to customize here actually. So we'll scroll down. The first thing is we'll change the default storage path. You don't necessarily have to. I like to, but you can actually change it afterwards in the storage class if you wish to. But let's go ahead and change the easy path to our MLOps folder, our desired Rancher MLOps folder. And more importantly, we want to make sure that our FS group policy is actually set to file to make sure that we've got the correct permissions here for the ClearML server Helm chart to actually do what it needs to do when it's actually making the necessary file system changes when it's setting up the various containers and pods for the ClearML server. So with those two changes done, we are good to go and actually deploy those CSI pods. Just see it launching there, which is great. Let's just double check quickly. Let's click on workloads and pods here, and we can actually see that our various CSI pods are actually up and running there. So that's great. So we have CSI installed the way that we want it. So we can go ahead now and actually create a storage class. So let's click on the create button here. And via Rancher, what I found easiest here is actually just go in and not give it a name or anything. I'm just going to hit the edit as the YAML button, and we'll actually paste in the values that we need. So everything from a technical point of view is actually outlined in the accompanying technical blog here, which kind of explains the values and why we've chosen those particular values that align with our MLOps environment. But essentially what we're doing here is we're setting up that storage class to actually leverage that MLOps access zone via the 192.168.30 network. So we've got multi-tenancy, secure multi-tenancy going on there, and network isolation, which is what we want. So we're ready to go, right? So I've set up a ClearML repository here. So that's the repo to actually pull down the ClearML images that we want by using the Helm installation. So if we search for ClearML server here and click on it, we can essentially go with the defaults here for the installation, because the way we've set up CSI in the storage class, it will default to use our Isilon storage class here. So let's just go ahead and change namespace. Oops, one quick mistake here. We actually forgot to set up our ClearML namespace. So let's jump back here. Cancel that out. Go back into our cluster, go back into our project. We see we have Isilon. We forgot to set our actual ClearML namespace. That's fine. Let's create that quickly, because that's where we want to deploy our ClearML pods into. Okay, all good. Let's go back to apps and charts and search again for ClearML. Here we can see ClearML server. And let's click the install button on that. As I said, let's drop that into our ClearML namespace. And I'm not going to customize the Helm chart. We've kind of done our pre-work in the CSI and the storage class setup work earlier. So we should be good to go. I have tested this deployment several times and I'm confident now that it will work. Right, so this is a matter of saving it off, and we will see the persistent volumes claims getting created, persistent volumes getting created and bound, and the actual pods will start to come up one by one. So let's change our view here to the ClearML namespace just to clean things up a little bit. And let's jump over here to storage and actually take a look at the persistent volume claims. So here we can see we've got some for our file server, our MongoDB, a Redis server as well, and our Elasticsearch, which is great. That's what we expected. Let's just verify it here over on our PowerScale cluster, and there we can see the actual folders being created. That's great. So I have a couple of old ones there from previous tests, but the 4 new ones are there, which is what we want. So let's jump back to our pods. It's a highly orchestrated install, this one, with lots of dependencies. But you can see now some of them are moving into a running state. The API server is the last one here to come up before we can actually get the file server and the web server online. You see those coming in there now. So that's great. We've got our 7 containers up and running. which basically means ClearML server is deployed and ready to go, which is what we wanted to get up and running with this video tutorial here. So if we click on that, we'll just click on the services, and just by way of a test, just a node local connection, node port connection at the moment. So we click on that, it'll bring us over to its IP address, .209, port 3080, and you can see our ClearML server is up and running. So that's great. So the third video in the series, what we'll actually step through is configuring ClearML server to work with PowerScale and kind of the most efficient way that we can, right? We want to avoid duplicate file copies. So what we'll do is we will configure ClearML to actually read and write directly to the PowerScale array, which will circumnavigate the ClearML file server in some ways that will more turn it into an index meta store. But we will set that up in our next blog and technical video series, and we'll step through that. Okay, thank you for your time, folks, and we shall see you all in the next tech video. Bye.